My name is Bill Leonard. I'm in charge of the documentary programs that we make here at CBS News. For years, we've wanted to make some sort of documentary about New York City. We never did. New York seemed too big to swallow in one gulp. Also too complicated and too many things to too many people. But tonight we're going to make a pass at it anyway. The idea is this, if you'll go along. We asked two documentary journalists to look at New York through their own eyes. Warren Wallace sees the seamy side. To Andrew Rooney, it's still that wonderful town. Wallace and Rooney worked independently of each other. Neither knew what the other was doing. So, two sides of New York. Watch and take your pick.
I feel depressed a lot of the time. Sort of a nagging sense of gloom. It's not the sort of depression that springs from the standard things, like I'm worried about money. My wife doesn't understand me. My children don't notice me. My dog doesn't love me. None of those things are true. It's very, very mysterious. For a long time, I thought that the fault had to be in me, something inside. Maybe I ought to have my head examined. And then I looked around me, and the idea came into my mind, maybe it's not me, maybe it's my environment. What a liberating idea. There's nothing wrong with me. It's my environment. And the minute I said that, I got a new form of courage that I haven't had for years. And I hauled back and I said something I wanted to say for a long time. To hell with New York.
How's my Rembrandt doing?
Rembrandt could use some help from Ben Gay.
Sounds like someone's arthritis pain's kicking up just a little bit.
Only when I get up to the gladiolas.
Clinical tests prove Ben Gay ointment's deep penetrating warmth relieves minor arthritis pain fast for hours, allowing more freedom of movement.
Rembrandt would be proud of your gladiolas. So am I.
Greaseless Ben Gay ointment. When you hurt, it helps.
Kleenex hopes you never have to know just how soft and absorbent we are. But isn't it nice to know that when you've got a bad cold, Kleenex tissues can handle it. When you've got a cold, you need a friend. Soft Kleenex tissues.
I'm Warren Wallace. For me, as for many others, New York used to mean liberty, opportunity, optimism. According to popular myth, it was the great good place, the place where people came to make it, to find themselves. Its towers were romantic symbols of the spirit of man reaching high. There was no city like it. It drew the bold, the energetic, the ambitious from all over to seek their fortunes. Life was in top gear all the time. By that myth, I am a typical New Yorker, born somewhere else, heading here in my youth with high hopes. To a hick like me, the city was terrifying. but it was also intoxicating. Everyone seemed so busy, so knowing, and that is the best feeling of all, to join a society that's on the move, going somewhere with confidence. I didn't know where we were going, but the rest of these people plainly did, and it was a deep comfort to move alongside them. But where are we going? It took a few years and a few knocks for me to begin to ask that question, and it took some more time, plus a few more bruises, for the suspicion to dawn that nobody knew the answer. Where are we going? Sometimes it seems to me that we're going nowhere at all, or perhaps in a vicious spiral downwards. New York is said to have one of the most efficient transportation systems in the world. It certainly has one of the oldest, and the most severely tested. It has become so hard, so frustrating, so noisy, so downright maddening to move about in New York that I often wish I could become a recluse and not move about at all. Yet, what is a city for if you can't move about in it? New Yorkers seldom stop to ask if all this racket and discomfort is necessary. They may look a bit glum, but they also look stoical. This experience, repeated day after day, year after year, builds a grim combination of patience and determination. People have to get about, and they have to grin and bear it. There are few outlets for the resulting tension. It isn't enough to walk your own little orbit, keep the peace, and take the rough with whatever of the smooth may be available, because the city finds ways of reaching out to assault you. Take the matter of automobiles. If you're outside them, you resent them. There appear to be too many. They make too much noise. They are a constant danger to the pedestrian. But if you're inside them, it's worse. Again, there are too many of them. And never mind all those pedestrians who get in the way, now you hate other drivers as well. This refinement of torture, repeated day after day, year after year, saps the spirit and cripples the will. But if you're bold enough or dumb enough to drive your own car, there are troubles beyond even the terrible traffic. When you have crept to your destination, where do you put the damn thing? If you're very wealthy or very desperate, there are garages. Let's see, over 6 a day, over 30 a week, adds up to over $1,500 a year. That leaves the street. But for parking in the wrong place at the wrong time, the city has devised a punishment that is, to put a polite word on it, debilitating. A more accurate way to describe this invasion of privacy might be to call it castrating. You come out. Your car's gone. Stolen? Nope. Some devilish man employed by the city has opened it up, released your brakes, and towed it away. It will come to rest in a desolate pond reserved for this practice beside the polluted waters of the Hudson River. The parade goes on all day, every day but Sunday. There is no respect for person, nor where you come from. Favors are evenly distributed. It is a terrible thing to happen to an American. It also turns out to be expensive.
Can I help you, sir?
Yeah, where do I go to pick up a car? I think mine's towed away.
Right in that office there, sir.
Over there?
Right.
What's it cost?
$50.
Oh, hey, $50.
$50.
Double par for 5 minutes, man.
Okay, hold on a second.
I put it's my mother's car. I put the stickers on it yesterday morning, and I just can't find that card.
So it's a Noble?
Oh, give me a break.
Perhaps it is worth noting that the towing service is what costs $50. The parking ticket comes extra at $25. New York puts such a premium on success that the sight of failure is doubly disturbing, and yet the place abounds in reminders that many people do not make it. Some are defiant in failure, and defiance may be the best response to the unique heartlessness of the city. It is cold, it is hard, and most of all, it is indifferent. This indifference can be terrifying. A lack of caring about others, a lack of neighborliness, people living side by side but not knowing each other, never greeting each other. The purse snatcher running free while onlookers turn away. The cry in the night that goes unheeded. The lonely towers standing as faceless witness to disaster. Nothing to do with me. I don't want to get involved. And those towers themselves, instead of being a symbol of hope, can stand as a sign of the city not making it. It's incoherent. It's crazy. It puts things right up together that do not go comfortably together. In atmosphere and in fact, the city is a garbage dump. Nothing matches. Alongside beauty, there is decay, plus the smell of polluted air. It is hard to count how many times in a given year the cheery-voiced newscaster announces, "Today's air quality, unsatisfactory." It's also hard to figure out what to do with that piece of information. Stop breathing, maybe, or flee. The trouble is, we're running out of refuges. Take Central Park, right in the middle of Manhattan. Beautiful scenes, quiet, lots of pleasant things to do. An ideal place to retreat from the way the city assaults the senses. The only problem is, it's not safe. Thousands of people use the park every day. Very few of them get mugged or raped, but it does occur. Just enough to make you wonder if you might be unlucky today, or what you have to do to avoid it.
If you're in the park, there's a lot of places you can go. A lot of places where there's a lot of people, and there are those areas where you're going to find very few. Now, if you're going to come into a park and you're going to start wandering through the woods, and especially if you're walking along with a nice expensive camera, or you have an expensive jacket on, or you look as though you might have quite a bit of money in your pocket, somebody is going to follow you off into the woods, and when he finds that opportunity where you're out alone and there's no one around, that's where he's going to take you off.
All right, now, supposing you're in the park, you're in a beautiful area like this. It's green and pleasant, nice water in the background, and we're more or less alone. We're walking along here. Say that one of us isn't wearing a uniform. What do you look out for? What's the thing to be afraid of?
What's the thing to be afraid of? Well, you know,
What do you watch for?
Let's put it this way. If you see someone who's sitting up on a bench and he just doesn't look right to you, for some reason, not everyone, there's certain people that just the way he's sitting there or something, there's something on an inner sense that you can feel if you're aware of it. If you're going to walk through here and not be aware that you can become a victim, then there's no help for you. But if you come walking through and you say, hey, I know New York can be bad, and I'm just going to be a little bit more thoughtful of where I go and how I go and who I talk to and who I avoid, you stand a little bit better chance than just coming through here and just looking around, looking up in the sky and thinking everything is roses. You're going to find that sometimes you're going to be a sorry person at the end of the day.
Yeah. Worry over safety has produced a boom in the karate business. Is this fun? I don't know. It's on the list of things I don't want to experience, like polar exploration or canasta. Practitioners maintain it ennobles the soul, and this may be so. For me, relations with my fellow man are complex enough without being supplemented by knowledge of how to kick him in the throat. Also, is there a plan for greeting him if he has a gun?
Yes, naturally we take up all forms of defense against people with weapons, all types of weapons. Naturally, our first rule is that if a person has a weapon on you, it is better to give them whatever he asks for, because even disarming the weapon, suppose it's a knife, disarming it and taking it away, if you get something vital cut, it isn't worth whatever the cost would be. Money and possessions can always be replaced. So our first rule is to give the opponent whatever if he has a knife and threatens you with a knife, give him whatever he wants. And a gun, of course, the same way. But both are quite lethal. And this is our first rule. Although, naturally, some situations are such that you can't get away. We had a boy that was attacked by three guys, and they were armed. He gave them his money and his wristwatch. And then one of them hit him, and he realized he was going to have to fight for his life at the same time. And so he remembered what his instructor had told him, which was to pick the biggest guy and flatten him. And that's exactly what he did. He picked the biggest man there. and he attacked him, and he happened to have some track shoes with him, and he hit him right across the face with the track shoes, opened his whole face. And when that happened, the other two just became paralyzed with fear, even though they had weapons. They just stood silent. In that state, this young boy, who's 15 years old, he walked up, threw one down, stepped on his hand, took the knife right out of his hand, crushed it, and he kicked the other one in the ribs, and that was the end of the whole thing, and he was saved.
The theme of defense is everywhere in the city. Gratings, bars on windows, alarm bells, closed-circuit TV monitors, private guards. A nagging sense of disaster.
Oh, Kara! Good girl.
As this demonstration shows, man's best friend has been enlisted as friend or enemy, hopefully on the right side at the right time.
Pass off.
Out, make friends. Good girl.
That's amazing.
Kara's a good girl.
But how do you actually begin?
Well, it depends. If you want a dog to have this dual personality training, then the first step would be to get him to be friendly with people.
Right.
You have to have a dog with excellent character.
Right.
To start with.
He likes
He has to be a good dog. He likes people. He's a good citizen to begin with.
Right.
Then through training, you teach. He has to be aggressive also. In other words, he can be good-natured and aggressive.
Right.
Then you can bring out both parts. To make friends and the attack.
And you learn how to control this.
And you learn how to control it where it's completely dependable, because then it works on reflex conditioning.
Right.
That's how we can turn them off so fast.
Well, now let's assume that you've taught the dog to be friendly and to love humanity.
Yes.
How do you begin the training to make him attack on command?
Well, we have to give the dog a good, solid interest in attack work, and the way to do it is through agitation.
My own problem is I identify with the dog. I grew up making friends. The agitation and instruction in attack came later.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Time for breakfast.
Breakfast.
Today we're having a different drink.
Different.
Something from the breakfast berry.
It's a cranberry.
Today it's Ocean Spray Cranberry Juice Cocktail.
What about my vitamin C?
Ocean Spray Cranberry Juice Cocktail has vitamin C. And how about that cranberry tang?
Wow, it really wakes you up.
Make breakfast naturally refreshing with
the breakfast berry from Ocean Spray.
My name is J. Paul Getty. The brokerage house of E.F. Hutton Company is a firm with which I have had close and pleasant relationships for 4 decades. They have been helpful and their service has been good.
When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen.
New York is always being torn apart. No doubt this represents progress, but it's also like living on the slopes of a volcano that mutters. The sight of streets ripped up or cable being put into the ground used to be reassuring. It was evidence that a complex mechanism was being kept up to date and would go on working. That was before blackouts and power reductions and repeated warnings from experts that one fine day, everything is going to go off with a bang or a whimper. The construction industry has the same effect on me. Quite apart from the sight of venerable landmarks being destroyed, or of huge cold shafts obliterating what had been a warm, inviting vista, or of looming office blocks that nobody seems to need just now, quite apart from these scenes, there is a strong impression of people beating a defensive retreat into castles. It's medieval. One expects them to have moats and drawbridges in addition to doormen and patented security systems. What's happening in the city produces in me a mood of deep, gnawing insecurity. For one thing, the price of a dwelling place is going higher and higher and higher. If you want to move into one of these fortresses, whether it's a new one or an old one, you better have plenty of the green stuff ready.
We really have great confidence in this area and in all of New York City.
Was it ever fun to look for an apartment? I seem to remember that it was, long, long ago. Today, the exercise is, well, unnerving.
This is the sixth-room apartment I told you about, but it's in something of a mess. It's in process of being painted. Please excuse it. Come right in.
I see the paint, yeah.
Right. This is the living room. As you see, it has southern exposure. It's facing out onto 86th Street. Very sunny in the afternoon. Buses are outside. Subway's down at the corner. Would you please follow me? We're going towards the bedroom area now. Just come right along.
Okay, thank you.
That's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, a dining room, your living room. It has a very large walk-in closet, your kitchen and the pantry, and then you, in addition, have the maid's room and the maid's lavatory. I'm afraid the maid would probably have to be short and thin, but it seems to have done the trick through the years.
And the maid's room counts as the sixth room.
As the sixth room.
And the price of this apartment?
The price, again, is $482.50 per month to $930.74, at which time it becomes $504.17 a month for 2 additional years.
At the end of that time, what happens?
Gee, I have no way of knowing, actually, at this time. Everything's under regulations of one sort or another. I couldn't tell you.
Everything is more and more expensive, including our prejudices. When I grew up in a big Midwestern city, I went to a public school, roughly the same type as this one. Private schools were for rich kids, and there weren't many of them. Today, in New York, there are hundreds of private schools, and they are a part of the total school mechanism of the city. They are patronized by parents who think they are better in various ways. And one way, which people don't want to discuss much openly, is that they are racially balanced in a way that keeps black children a minority, a small minority. If I were to contemplate sending children to this neighborhood public school, I wouldn't contemplate it long. There are too many black faces. Now that is an inflammatory thing to say, and it's hard for the words to come out. I feel ashamed, because saying it does not fit very well with my image of myself as being well disposed to all my fellow man. All right, I love my fellow man, regardless of color, providing he does not disadvantage me. And by my way of thinking, a white child who is part of a minority in a predominantly black school is disadvantaged. It seems like a silly thought when you look at the children. They look like nice kids, all of them, and they obviously get on. They are not only learning at school, they're learning from each other. Very likely they are doing a better job of sorting out their conflicts, both inner and outer, than I am. But my problem is not just a struggle between what I profess to believe and what I actually believe. My problem is one of the problems of New York. New York has a lot of poor people. A very heavy percentage of the people in real poverty are black. These kids are going home from school. Home may be uptown, and if it is, their lives and their attitudes are different from anything that I have experienced. Because uptown is different. This is part of New York too, although people who don't have to live here try to wall it out and forget it. When I said, to hell with New York, it might have been a good idea to start by saying, to hell with this, except that this is rather like hell. The fact of the matter is that black people frighten me. If I were a black person and had to live in a building like this, I should be consumed with hate all the time. And if I saw these people as my brothers and sisters, it wouldn't matter where I lived, the hate would stay. I might save a little of that hate for the neighborhood loan shark or the local pusher, but mostly I would hate Whitey. I'm not black, and I don't understand black people, how they feel from moment to moment, never mind feel at heart. I wish I could, but I can't. So I can only assume that somewhere there must be a permanent core of anger, and that is why in my heart I am afraid, even of the black people who are my friends. So I buy an imperfect security from this fear, spending money on things like walls and locks and towers and dogs and private schools and insulated entertainment. The trouble is, it may cost too much in money and in spirit. One of the things they say about New York is that it has almost everything. Name it and you've got it. But what have we got? Some of the worst slums in the world, also some of the best restaurants in the world. Theaters, movies, nightclubs, concert halls, racetracks, ballparks, museums, the list goes on. But to partake of all these delights as a steady diet is not only beyond my pocketbook, it's beyond my palate. Which illuminates another source of the big city blues, the awful smell of commerce. Another word for it is exploitation. Only who are the gainers and who are the victims? It is indeed true that you can get almost everything in New York, but that may not be an altogether healthy situation to be in. Certainly, the streets are full of reminders not only of our weaknesses, but also of a ghastly lack of style that is part of the way we live here. Admittedly, style isn't everything, but when you lose it, you're apt to get a depressing sense of losing hold of things. And that is the tickle at the back of the brain, a creeping suspicion that somehow, in this city, we are losing hold of things. Well, there it is. We most of us live in cities or near cities, and I guess when I say to hell with New York, I may be stirring up an echo in hearts in other places. I do say it. I do live here, and I have absolutely no doubt that I'll go on living here for quite a while.
I don't want to get in it.
New York, New York. Stay tuned for In Praise of New York City.
Mirrors. How many of us can pass one without stopping to look, fix, straighten, comb? But with all that looking, when was the last time you took a good look at your eyes? If they're red and irritated, how good can you look? You need Visine. Visine has tetrahydrozoline to get the red out. You'll see it soothe, feel it freshen. So keep your eyes looking good with Visine. It gets the red out.
I liked my first dishwasher, and when it needed replacing, I went to the store, and I just happened to see the Maytag. It has 3 spray actions, the top, the middle, and the bottom, and this really gets the dishes clean. I like to bake a lot, and my Maytag dishwasher gets all the crusty particles off of my pie pans and cake pans. I wish I'd had a Maytag dishwasher from the first.
From the dependability people, the Maytag dishwasher, the one to buy in the first place.
When an orange is so darn good tasting, so juicy and sweet, it's a downright pleasure to eat. Well, let me tell you, that's no accident. An orange gets that way because some guy got up at 3 in the morning, went out in his groves and started his wind machines to keep the fruit warm. Because if the fruit gets too cold, you end up with an orange that just isn't juicy enough. And how do I know all that? I'm Dick Stark. I'm one of those guys that gets up in the middle of the night, all winter long. I have to. I grow oranges for sun-kissed. If they have some interior damage, they might pass the government standards, but they won't pass sun-kissed. You see, a sun-kissed orange, my friend, is something special from the inside out. You have our word on it.
It's been popular in recent years to suggest that nature is the perfect condition, that man has done nothing to the earth since he got here but make a mess of it. Well, that's true about some places, but untrue about others. New York City is as amazing in its own way as the Grand Canyon. As a matter of fact, you can't help thinking that maybe nature would have made New York City look like this if it had had the money and the know-how. But New York City hasn't been showered with compliments in recent years, and tonight we're going to ignore some of its shortcomings, almost to the point of lying about them, and speak in praise of New York City. When people talk about New York City, they usually mean the part of the city called Manhattan. And that's mostly what we're talking about. Manhattan is a narrow rock island 12 miles long. Being an island's an important thing about New York because even though no one thinks much about it from day to day, they have to go to quite a bit of trouble to get on it and off it. This makes being there something of an event, and people don't take it so lightly. New York isn't like so many places that just sort of dwindle away until you're out of town. In New York, it's very definite. You're either there or you aren't there. The 28 bridges or tunnels don't connect Manhattan with New Jersey and the 4 other boroughs. They're for entering and leaving New York. Where from or where to is of secondary importance. It may be some indication of the significance of the event that it costs $1 to cross the George Washington Bridge entering New York, nothing to cross leaving it. The Brooklyn Bridge is a cathedral among bridges. Coming to Manhattan across it every morning is like passing through the Sistine Chapel on your way to work. You couldn't be going to an unimportant place. Although 2 million people work on the little island, only 500,000 of those who work here live here. As a result, 1.5 million people have to get on it every morning and off it every night. That's a lot of people to push through 28 little holes in an hour or so. But it's this arterial ebb and flow that produces the rhythm to which this heartless city's heart beats. There must be something worth coming for when all these people go to this much trouble to get here. Although it isn't the outstanding thing about it to the people who live or work here, New York is best known to strangers for what it looks like. And of course it looks tall. The World Trade Center has 2 towers, each 1/4 mile high. The New York office worker isn't overwhelmed by the engineering implications of flushing a toilet 106 floors above the street. The buildings of the city are best seen from above, as though they were on an architect's easel. It's strange that they were built to look best from an angle at which hardly anyone ever sees them. From the street where the people are, you can't see the buildings for the city. Looking up, no wonder the stranger is apprehensive of such a city as this. The New Yorker doesn't worry about them because he never looks up. You have to talk about tall buildings when you talk about New York, but to anyone who has lived for very long with both, the people of the city are of more continuing interest than the architecture. There's some evidence, of course, that the New Yorker isn't all that separate from his environment. If dogs and masters tend to look alike, so probably do cities and citizens. The New Yorker takes in New York air. For a short time, it trades molecules with his bloodstream, and he is part city. And then he exhales, and the city is part him. They become inextricably mingled, and it would be strange if the people didn't come to look like the city they inhabit, and to some extent like each other. The out-of-towner is immediately identifiable. I wonder where the Statue of Liberty is. While the rest of the nation feels fiercely about New York, they love it or they hate it, New Yorkers feel nothing. They use it like a familiar tool. They don't defend it from love or hate. They shrug or nod in knowing agreement with almost anything anyone wants to say about it. Maybe this is because it's so hard to say anything about New York that isn't true. New Yorkers don't brood much. They go about their business with a purposefulness that excludes introspection. And if the rest of the country says New Yorkers lack pride because they have so little to be proud of, the New Yorker shrugs again. He has no argument with the South or the Midwest or Texas or California. He feels neither superior nor inferior. He just doesn't compare the things in New York with those anywhere else. He doesn't compare the subway with Moscow's or with the metro in Paris. Both may be better, but neither goes to Brooklyn or Forest Hills, and for this reason doesn't interest the New Yorker one way or the other. New York is essentially a place for working, but not everyone works in a glass cube. The island is crowded with highly individual nests people have made for themselves. There are 100,000 Waldens hidden in the stone and steel caverns. And if a Hollywood facade is deceptive because it has nothing behind it, a New York facade is deceptive because it has so much. There are places within places, houses behind houses. Very often in New York, ugliness is only skin deep. New York is the cultural center of mankind. Art flourishes in proximity to reality, and in New York, the artist is never more than a stone's throw from the action.
Like so many others, I have arthritis. So do several of my friends. The way they talked about Exocane sounded too good to be true.
This is Exocane, Exocane medicated foam, the only leading rub containing benzocaine, the fast-acting anesthetic that deadens pain up to hours at a time. Exocane starts to penetrate immediately to temporarily deaden minor aches and pains of arthritis.
I do feel less pain with Exocane.
Fast-acting Exocane to temporarily deaden minor arthritis pain.
You must be freezing.
No, I'm all right.
As long as there are husbands in winter, there are going to be colds. That's why I keep these medicines handy. Aspirin and Sucrets.
Aspirin for aches and fever when needed, and for fast temporary relief of minor sore throat pain, many doctors recommend medicated Sucrets.
Let's go, Casey. My throat's a little sore.
As long as there are husbands in winter, aspirin and sucrets.
There are wonderfully good places to live in New York if you have the money, and a lot of New Yorkers have the money. Some of the grand old brownstones of an earlier era have been restored. There are none more elegant anywhere. There are charming and unexpected little streets hidden in surprising places throughout the city. They attract the artist, the actor, the musician. The city is crowded with luxury apartments, and even if you don't own your own brownstone, there's no need to camp out. If you can afford $1,200 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment, you can live in one of these. Or you can buy it for a few $100,000. Money doesn't go as far in New York, but it doesn't come as far either. And if you're on welfare, you'll be living someplace like this. New York's equivalent of the little old shack by the railroad track. The average living place is an apartment built wall to wall with other apartments so that they share the efficiency of water and electricity that flows to them through the same conduits. They're neither slums nor palaces.
Julie, what time's Kathy coming up?
Several 100,000 people have Central Park for a front yard. It's certainly the greatest park on earth, a world of its own. And anyone who ever spent much time in it would hardly recognize a Johnny Carson joke about it. No large city ever had the foresight to set aside such a substantial portion of itself to be one complete, unbuilt-on place. Any proposition to take so much as 10 square feet of it to honor a Polish general brings out its legion of defenders. There are crimes committed in the park, but to say the park is unsafe is like saying banks are unsafe because there are holdups. Life is unsafe, for that matter.
Sing a song. Let the world sing along. Sing of nothing could be. Sing for you and for me. Sing a song. Make it simple to last your whole life long. Don't worry that it's not good enough for anyone else to hear. Just sing a song. Just sing a song. Just sing a song.
Most American cities have rotted from the center, and the merchants have all moved to a place under one roof out in the middle of a suburban parking lot. Downtown was yesterday. New York is still vital at its core. It's the ultimate downtown. If the biggest businesses are centered in New York, so are the smallest. Macy's, Gimbel's, Bloomingdale's are all here, and so are the big grocery chains. But the place you probably buy your meat is not at a counter out in a supermarket in a shopping mall on the main road that skirts the edge of town. You probably buy it around the corner at a butcher's where you can still see both sides of a piece of meat. If you want a rare and exotic cheese from Luxembourg, it's available. Or maybe you need a gear for a pump made in 1923. And if you're 7 feet tall, there's a store that'll take care of you, just as if you have a waist that measures 64 inches. There's nothing you can't buy here if it's for sale anywhere in the world. If a civilization can be judged on its ability not only to survive, but to thrive in the face of natural obstacles, New York's civilization would have to be called among the most successful. For example, for what's supposed to be a temperate climate, New York has some of the most intemperate weather in the world. It's too hot in summer, too cold in winter. During all its seasons, the wind has a way of whipping the weather at you. And the rain is always coming in at an angle that umbrella makers never considered. The funny thing about it is that nature and New York City have a lot in common. Both are absolutely indifferent to the human condition. Incident in the Rain, Sir Walter Raleigh on 6th Avenue. To the New Yorker, accustomed to inconvenience of every kind, the weather is simply one more inconvenience. He learns young to proceed against all odds. If something's in your way, move it, or go under it, or over it, or around it, but keep going. There's no sad resignation to defeat. New Yorkers assume they can win. They have this feeling that they are not going to be defeated. People talk as though they don't like crowds, but the crowds in New York bestow on the faces it comprises a blessed anonymity. They are protected from the necessity of being individuals when being one serves no purpose. And this blending together is a great time saver for them. New York can be a very private place, too. There's none of the neighborliness based solely on proximity that dominates the lives you share your life with in a small town. It's quite possible to be not merely private, but lonely in a crowd in New York. Loneliness seldom lasts, though. For one thing, troubles produce a warmth and comradeship like nothing else. And New York has so many troubles, shared by so many people, that there's a kind of common knowingness, even in evil, that brings them together. There is no one with troubles so special in New York that there aren't others in the same kind of trouble. There are 5,000 blind people making their way around the city. They're so much a part of the mix, so typical as New Yorkers, that they're treated with much the same hostile disregard as anyone else. Many of them walk through the city with the same recognizably fierce independence that moves other New Yorkers. They feel the same obligation to be all right. I'm okay, I'm all right. You have to be careful about offering your arm because they're as apt to be irritated as grateful for unnecessary help. It might appear to any casual visitor who may have taken a few rides about town in a taxicab that all New Yorkers are filled with a loud-mouthed ill will towards each other. The fact of the matter is, though, that however cold and cruel things seem on the surface, there has never been a society of people in all history with so much compassion for its fellow man. It clothes, feeds, and houses 15% of its own because 1,260,000 people in New York are unable to do it for themselves. Now, you couldn't call that cold or cruel.
One of every 3 people suffers some symptoms of hemorrhoids, and I've found how several outstanding doctors have obtained successful results with Preparation H. In many cases, Preparation H gives prompt temporary relief from occasional pain and itching of hemorrhoidal tissues. Then Preparation H actually helps shrink swelling of hemorrhoidal tissues caused by inflammation. There's no other formula like Preparation H, and Preparation H needs no prescription. Doctor-tested Preparation H.
There's not much difference in pain relievers that you can see, but in your bloodstream the differences are very real. While all 3 leading pain relievers reach an effective level in minutes, in the final analysis, only one of them hits and holds the highest level, Anacin. This difference is the extra pain reliever Anacin provides when you have a headache. Remember, the difference in Anacin is the higher level of pain reliever. Anacin relieves pain fast.
Everyone must have seen pictures, at least, of the great number of poor people who live in New York. And it seems strange, in view of this, that so many people still come here seeking their fortune, or maybe someone else's. But if anything about the city's population is more impressive than the great number of poor people, it's the great number of rich people. There's no need to search for buried treasure in New York. The great American dream is out in the open for everyone to see and to reach for. No one seems to resent the very rich. It must be because even those people who can never realistically believe they'll get rich themselves still can dream about it. The dream is visible in New York, and they respond to the hope of getting what they see others having. Their hope alone seems to be enough to sustain them. The woman going into Tiffany's to buy another diamond pin can pass within 10 feet of a man without enough money for lunch. They're oblivious to each other. He feels no envy, she no remorse. If most of the people who arrive in New York come to seek their fortune, a lot also come looking for fame. If you're going to get to the top, communicating art or entertainment or news or ideas, you've got to eventually do it in New York. Every place else is on the way here. The little leagues and the minor leagues and the major leagues of entertainment are here. The stages range from the streets and back alleys of Greenwich Village through the parks to Lincoln Center and Broadway.
And the conclusion is, she shall be thine. Wow!
People talk about raising kids in small towns. Mostly, though, they raise them in big cities. If New York kids are deprived of barns and attics and Maple Avenue, they don't seem to be aware of missing anything. The open hydrant is their old swimming hole.
I close my eyes and soon I find I'm in a playground in my mind where the children laugh and the children play and we sing a song all day. My name is Michael, I got a nickel, I got a nickel.
Playing street hockey on roller skates, they're oblivious to the shadow of world problems that falls across their concrete rink. There's a disregard for the past in New York that dismays even a lot of New Yorkers. But the fact is, no one pays much attention to antiquity. The immigrants who came here came for something new, and what New York used to be means nothing to them. Their heritage is somewhere else. Old million-dollar buildings are constantly being torn down and replaced by new $50 million ones. In London, Rome, Paris, much of the land has only been built on once in all their long history. In relatively new New York, some lots have already been built on 4 times. Because the stranger only sees New Yorkers in transit, he leaves with the impression that the city is one great mindless rush to nowhere. He complains that it's moving too fast, but he doesn't notice that it's getting there first. New York has been where the rest of the country is going. A movie has come and gone. A fashion is in and out. Here's the frontier, and these are the new pioneers. Millions of immigrants who once arrived by ships stopped off in New York for a generation or two while the city's digestive system tried to assimilate them before putting them into the great American bloodstream. The rest of the country takes pride in the legend on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Well, for the most part, it's been New York City, not the rest of the country, that took in those huddled masses. And New York is still trying to swallow large numbers of immigrants. They don't come by boat much anymore, and they may not even be from a foreign country. The recent influx of 1 million Puerto Ricans, for instance, produced the same kind of digestive difficulties that the influx of the Irish did in the middle 1800s. New York's detractors have said there is just as much prejudice here as anywhere. New York could hardly deny that. The working whites hate the unemployed blacks. The blacks hate the whites. The Puerto Ricans live in a world of their own. The Germans, the Hungarians, the Poles live on their own blocks. Nothing in this pot is melted together. The Chinese and the Italians lived side by side in lower Manhattan as though Canal Street was the Israeli border. And in a city with almost 2 million Jews, even a lot of Jews are anti-Semitic. And in spite of it all, the city works. People do get along. And there is love. Whether New York is a pleasure or a pain depends on what it is you wish to fill your life with, or whether you wish to fill it at all. There's an endless supply of satisfactions available to anyone who wishes to help himself to them. It's not an easy city, but the cups of its residents runneth over with life. It's a city of extremes. There's more of everything. The range of notes is wider. The highs are higher, the lows lower. The goods, the bads are better and worse. And if you're unimpressed by statistics, consider the fact that last year the cops alone in New York City were charged with stealing $73 million worth of heroin. There were 1,691 murders. But neither statistic is so much a comment on crime as it is a comment on the size and diversity of New York City. No one keeps a statistic on life. The feeling here is that, like everything else, there's more of it in New York.
Destitute people to help themselves.
Send your dollars now to
Care, Department 2, New York 10016.
Stay tuned for a CBS News special report, State of the Union, a Democratic View. Senate Majority Leader Mike Mansfield will present the opposition view to President Nixon's State of the Union address in the special broadcast coming up next on CBS.
You may have heard